Hello doctors. Welcome to Note Official. Let's break down medicine into concept. Today we are going to learn germ layer derivatives. As we know, at the start of embryogenesis we have the primitive streak in the caudal to cephalic direction. Let's assume this is the cephalic end and this is the caudal end. The primitive streak is from caudal to cephalic direction. And now from the primitive streak we have all germ layers, but today we will talk about Neuroectoderm, Neural Crest Cells and surface ectoderm. This caudal end will make the cloacal membrane, and the cephalic end will make the buccopharyngeal membrane. Before we move forward, let me tell you we have placidal ectoderm here, and it is formed from the surface ectoderm. We will see more details soon. First, let's see what happens to the neuroectoderm. This is the dorsal view of the embryo. This is neuroectoderm in blue color here, and brown color is mesoderm. We have the amniotic cavity and yolk sac cavity here in cross section. And now, as we know, this is surface ectoderm on the upper side and endoderm on the lower side. And between the surface ectoderm, the groove-like structure is the neuroectoderm. And now as the embryo grows, it forms neural plates, then it will fold inside and forms neural grooves. As we can see in the dorsal view, as time passes the yolk sac cavity is getting shorter, this yellow part is mesoderm, and this is the neural groove. And now this neural groove will fold inside and will separate from the surface ectoderm, and it will form the neural tube. And surface ectoderm will continue from both sides. This was ectoderm, but you can't forget that we have neural crest cells between the surface ectoderm and neural ectoderm. And now we know that neuroectoderm will form the neural tube. Now let's move forward and see the derivatives of neuroectoderm. A neural tube will form the central nervous system. CNS consists of the brain, which is the forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain, and also the spinal cord. A neuroectoderm also forms the muscles of the iris, optic nerve and retina of the eye. It also forms endocrine glands like the posterior pituitary gland and pineal gland. And lastly, CNS supporting cells like ependymal cells, astrocytes and oligodendrocytes. So these are the derivatives of the neuroectoderm. I have a mnemonic for neuroectoderm derivatives and it is BSS. B is brain, E is eyes, this E is for endocrine glands, S is for spinal cord, and the second S is for supporting cells. So this is BSS, BESS. And now we will move forward and let's see the surface ectoderm. As we saw, the surface ectoderm is here, and there will be formation of the neural plate, then neural groove, and finally the neural tube will be separated, and the surface ectoderm will continue with each other. We can assume that the neural tube is inside and the surface ectoderm is outside, so it forms mostly the outer parts of the body. So first let us see the body covering formed by surface ectoderm. We have the epidermis of the skin and skin appendages like nails, hair shaft, erector pili muscle in the neck and head. And also the sebaceous gland which produces sebum or oil on the skin. So let's write the derivatives of surface ectoderm, which are body covering parts, epidermis, skin appendages like hair shaft, nails, erector pili muscles and sebaceous glands. Okay, now we move forward and see glandular structures formed by surface ectoderm. We have two types of sweat glands, Eccrine sweat glands and Apocrine sweat glands. And also we have the modified sweat gland, which is the mammary gland. So glandular structures formed by surface ectoderm are two types of sweat glands, Eccrine gland and Apocrine gland, and the mammary gland. And now we have the stomodeum formed from surface ectoderm. A stomodeum is the opening of the gastrointestinal tract, meaning the oral cavity. So the epithelium of the oral cavity. Then in the teeth we have tooth enamel formed from ameloblasts derived from surface ectoderm. Then we have the parotid gland, and on the roof of the oral cavity we have Rathke's pouch, and also the anterior pituitary gland. So let's write down the stomodeum structures derived from surface ectoderm, oral epithelium, tooth enamel from ameloblasts, parotid gland, and anterior pituitary gland. But let me remind you, we learned earlier that the posterior pituitary gland is formed by neuroectoderm, and the anterior pituitary gland is formed by surface ectoderm. So remember this, we have anterior and posterior pituitary gland. Anterior is derived from surface ectoderm and posterior is derived from neuroectoderm. Okay, next are the special senses structures derived from surface ectoderm. First is the eye, we have the lens, and it is derived from the placidal ectoderm. As we saw earlier, it is derived from surface ectoderm. Then we have corneal epithelium, conjunctiva, and lacrimal gland. Then we have the inner ear structures like the organ of Corti, vestibular system, and membranous labyrinth. Also, the external auditory meatus lining is formed by surface ectoderm. And for the nose, surface ectoderm forms the olfactory epithelium. So as we now know, surface ectoderm forms structures of special senses like lens, corneal epithelium, conjunctiva, and lacrimal gland of the eye. For the inner ear and external auditory canal, and olfactory epithelium. And lastly, we have terminal lining derived from surface ectoderm. A proctodeum means the lining of the anal canal, and also the terminal portion of the male urethra, known as the navicular fossa. So for terminal lining, proctodeum and male urethra are derived from surface ectoderm. We saw structures derived from surface ectoderm include body covering, glandular structures, stomodeum, special senses, and terminal lining. And now let's see the neural crest cell derivatives. We know neural crest cells are formed between the surface ectoderm and neuroectoderm. Neural crest cells migrate and differentiate into 4 types of neural crest cells: cranial neural crest, cardiac neural crest, vagal and sacral neural crest, and trunk neural crest. So let's see the cranial neural crest. It forms facial bones and cranial bones of the skull. It forms odontoblasts which make the dentin of the teeth. Connective tissue of the thymus, thyroid, and parathyroid gland. And in the eyes it forms corneal stroma and endothelium. Lastly, it forms sensory ganglia of cranial nerves 5, 7, 9, and 10. Next we have the cardiac neural crest. It forms the aorticopulmonary septum and musculoconnective tissue of the walls of the large arteries. And then vagal and sacral neural crest forms the enteric nervous system, consisting of the myenteric plexus and submucosal plexus. Lastly, trunk neural crest forms the peripheral nervous system, dorsal root ganglia, sympathetic ganglia, Schwann cells, myelinated nerves, chromaffin cells, and melanocytes. And now before we summarize all of this, let me tell you, if vagal and sacral neural crest cells fail to migrate during embryogenesis, it causes Hirschsprung's disease in newborns. Let's revise the neural crest cell derivatives. So we have cranial neural crest which forms facial and cranial bones except the occipital bone. Then it forms odontoblasts and helps to form the dentin of the tooth. So now we know that tooth dentin is derived from neural crest cells, and we saw earlier that enamel is derived from surface ectoderm. And next we have connective tissue of the thyroid, parathyroid, and thymus. In the eyes it forms corneal stroma, iris stroma, and ciliary muscles. And lastly, sensory ganglia of cranial nerves 5, 7, 9, and 10. So for the eyes we know lacrimal gland, corneal epithelium, conjunctiva, and lens are derived from surface ectoderm, whereas corneal stroma, iris stroma, and ciliary muscles are derived from neural crest cells. And now we have trunk neural crest which forms dorsal root ganglia, sympathetic ganglia, adrenal medulla, chromaffin cells that produce epinephrine and norepinephrine. And also forms melanocytes which are responsible for skin and hair color. Lastly, we have vagal and sacral neural crest that forms the enteric nervous system, consisting of the myenteric plexus and submucosal plexus. We will learn mesoderm and endoderm derivatives in the next video, so subscribe the channel so you don't miss out. Don't forget to solve the questions below. If you have any doubt, please ask in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.